intention. I'm going to talk about a lot of different kinds of tension today. But first, let me introduce myself. It's very possible that you're new here, and it's very possible that someone sent you this video. And you want to know how I know that? Well, stick around for just a second. It'll all become clear. I am Ray of Sunshine. I'm delighted that you're here with me today, along with all the other sunflowers. Let me explain. The visuals in this particular broadcast are a little bit significant, and you'll understand why in a little while. But I want to explain for those people who are not able to see me right now because they're driving or whatever, for whatever reason they can't see me. I want to explain the background here, which is a field of millions and millions of sunflowers. And that's important because the way this whole video presentation is set up, it shows a progression, right? So there's a lot of different ways of viewing lots of different rays of sunshine in all my earlier videos. That started back last spring. And so there's some older videos back there, which is sort of like prehistoric in a sense, if you view this whole video presentation as a metaphor for us as humanity. What's going to happen is, in that progression, after there's a 1 through 6 video series, and there's A, B, C, D, the ABC section, and each one of those sections has a grouping of videos. There's a half a dozen in each one of them, and during each one of those, that progression, there is a transition. So, for example, when you're going from section A to section B, there's a transition when you're going from A to B, and there's an overlap. There's some of the attributes of the A section that'll overlap into the B until it fades away and becomes B, so forth. And then some of the B's being introduced as the A's are fading out. We're transforming. And it goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And I explain this in all my other videos too. But what's important here is that we're at the end of the I section, which is, you may have noticed, EYE, but it's H-I-J. It's that I. We're at the end of it now. So there's some things that are happening in the transition, which was happening in the previous video to this one, and the background. We lose the background, and something different happens. So I'm just warning you in case that happens to come up. And the other thing I want to start by explaining too is intention versus attention, because that's also going to be playing a major role in what it is I want to talk about today. So I'm going to start by illustrating attention. And I'm going to also explain it for people who might not be able to see me. And what's happening here is, on my side, is my hand is raised into the air. It's at eye level, and it's shaking. So it looks like it's waving in a way. And I'm looking around until I get the view of my hand shaking in the periphery, and it gets my attention. So that is attention illustrated. Now I'm going to illustrate intention. And intention works a little bit differently, because in this case here, there's no hand, there's no activity around. I'm just surrounded by sunflowers. You know what all the sunflowers have in common? What we all have in common with each other? It's our time to blossom. It's our time to bloom. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, a little bit later on. Let me finish illustrating intention. So I'm looking around, and there's nothing for me to focus on. However, I intend to have my hand go up on the side of my head and start shaking like it's waving, and focus my attention on that. So I intended for it to happen, and it happened. So that's the difference between attention and intention. So see what happened here now? The sunflowers disappeared, and there's this enormous dragonfly behind my head. Dragonfly reminds me of my husband Sid, who I talk about in a lot of my previous videos. Hey, that's one of the reasons I have a lot of stories about Sid back in those videos. And Sid we did a lot of real fun things together. But one of the most fun activities for me was when Sid used to talk to dead people. Anyway, after Sid first passed away, he appeared to my sister on her windshield in the form of a dragonfly, and it was this big, not big like this one, but relatively speaking, for dragonflies, it was like this big, enormous one right on the windshield. And she said, because he used to speak to her too, he still speaks to her, and she said, "Sid, is that you?" He said, "Yeah, that's me." So let me tell you about the attention intention comparison, because, well, here's one way to look at it. Okay, you could look at attention, the idea of something getting our attention, that's where we focus, as maybe the old energy that many of us have been used to for a long time, in this lifetime perhaps, and maybe in lots of previous lifetimes too, sort of like the dark ages might be one way to think about it. And another kind of energy might be thought of as the kind of energy that maybe we're moving into, and an energy that is a little bit more elevated in many ways, a little more positive in lots of ways. I was driving in downtown Providence. It's the capital city of Rhode Island, and there was a gas station downtown with one of those marquee signs with messages on it, like something about the car wash, and then it said, "Spread kindness." And I'm starting to get those messages from lots of different places, but to me that's kind of amazing, on a gas station to be announcing those sorts of messages, and it illustrates where we as a society are elevating our thoughts. So, we could think of it as a difference between creating a hell on earth or creating a heaven on earth. And let me put it this way. If I had two platters, and one of them was all full of stuff that you don't like at all, you're not interested in, and the other platter is all kinds of stuff that you really love and that you drool over, it wouldn't be that hard to say, if I'm offering them to you, which one would you like? And you're going to pick the platter with all the stuff that you like. It's time to get used to different. That's what I'm here for. So I illustrate that progression in this whole series. One of the things I talk about, but I talk about it in a lot of different ways, although I talk about it in every single one of my videos, is that we're moving into a different energy, and it's a time to see the glow up and be the glow up. And it doesn't always happen in that particular order. The order that is probably going to happen more is be the glow up and see the glow up. And that's the energy that we're heading into, okay? The difference between hell on earth, heaven on earth. And it's the difference between those two platters. The difference between choosing between those two platters and choosing hell on earth or heaven on earth is that some people might hesitate to choose the heaven on earth concept because they don't believe it. Don't believe it's possible. But that's because they don't believe that they have a choice, because we all have a choice. We all have that choice. Just like we have a choice. We're transitioning. We're transforming, or getting with the program, or not being with the program. Can't have both, right? So that's a lot of what this program is for many people too. It's a chance to get off the fence, one way or the other. So one side of the fence is sort of like that Shangri-La reality that I'm talking about, and the other side of the fence is status quo, really. And that's the difference between the two tensions that I was talking about, intention versus attention. And the climate that we're developing into is more of a climate of intention. The climate we're coming out of, and the climate that many of us have been stuck in for a good part of this lifetime, and in many, many previous lifetimes, as far as I'm concerned. We're in a climate of enormous change. Is the energy of attention. We get in the habit of paying attention to whatever it was that was demanding our attention and creating more of the same, creating more of the status quo. So that's one choice, is to remain with the status quo. And the other choice is to believe. We're blooming. To believe that we can have better, to believe that we can do better, to believe that we can rise up more, believe that we can do this together. It's like making a puzzle, as one example. And all puzzle pieces are created equal. They have different shapes, they have different things that might show on them. Some might be bright, some might be dull. But aside from that, all puzzle pieces are created equal. And they're all required to complete the puzzle. And that's the same thing with our society. And so, that's why it's important. I was talking about the odds that somebody, sorry to be shaking that, somebody sent you this video, because it's a matter of being in our power. YouTube has their plan, and for whatever, it's something to do with algorithms, and you can subscribe, and it affects the algorithm somehow. I like a nice algorithm as much as the next guy. However, that's putting YouTube in control. So maybe in a year from now, as a result of you clicking on like, maybe 100 other people might have gotten around to seeing this video that otherwise might not have seen it. Or you could just send it to 100 people. Get it over with. Get it done with, right? Be in your power. Make it happen. That's one way of figuring out what side of the fence you want to be on. Is the old world? The world that got our attention. If we create more of the same, and that's a choice. If we want to continue, whoever wants to do that, totally free choice. And then there's the other side of the coin. What status quo reminds me of? It reminds me of, and you probably heard this story before, about this hound dog that's laying on a porch, and the farmers and the rocketeer alongside of him enjoying the sunset, and the hound dog is just howling and moaning and groaning, and somebody walks by and says to the farmer, "Hey, what's up with the dog?" And that's D-O-G is what I'm trying to say, by the way, dog. So what's up with the dog? And the farmer says, well, he's laying on a nail, but it doesn't hurt enough to do something about it. It just hurts enough to moan and groan and gripe and complain. And so that's what he does. And that's the status quo. And it's a choice. He can get up, can move on, or can stay in the status quo. That's the choice. This is our best time ever to glow up. It's time to glow up. And the reason I say it's the best time ever is because the conditions are right. This is the best time in all of our history for us to make that happen. It doesn't come down to letting it happen. It doesn't come down to, let's leave it for the next one. Somebody else will send it out. I can't be bothered. I don't care enough to send this video to somebody. You can say that. That's one choice. But this is a global effort. This is a global effort. This is what's going to be needed for us to accelerate this process of moving into where we want to be. Of moving into where we can believe we can be, if we can believe we can make it happen. And the way that you can believe to make it happen is to do it, because it's a choice. Hey, the best thing you can do to contribute toward this effort is find what makes your heart dance. And if your heart is dancing, find what makes your heart dance more. Because it feels good. It feels better. It feels better to love you than to groan and moan and whine and complain about you. It feels better to love you. It's playtime. Time to create you. Hey, I'm really glad you were here with me today. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. And meanwhile, share kindness and share this video